Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask an Assistant, the podcast for executive assistants and the people that love us. I'm your host, Jess Lindgren. Let's get to work. Today's question comes from esteemed colleague Steph, who asks, "Hey Jess, my executive serves on several boards of directors, all of which have different meeting cadences, durations, and locations. How do I keep it all organized? How do I get all of the dates sorted out so there are no conflicts and the boards get the dates that they want or need?" I love this question, and I don't care who knows it. Steph, thank you so much for your question. For anyone out there listening, please be sure to stop by askanassistant.com and lay your questions on me. Back to boards. A light Google gives me the definition as a board of directors being a group of people who oversee the operations of an organization and are responsible for its high-level strategy and performance. Your executive will likely serve on any number of different boards, whether they are at publicly or privately held for-profit entities or nonprofit organizations. They may also serve on boards as investors or advisors in varying capacities. For today's purposes, the structure of your executive's board service matters way less than the nuts and bolts of wrangling their annual board service commitments. In the past, I worked with an executive very much like yours, Steph, who served on boards both around town and some that required travel to other states. This was pre-2014, so remote attendance at board meetings was rare and, if allowed, usually done via conference call on an actual specialized conference phone that had its own special conference calling capabilities, its own special phone line, its own special phone number. I am so grateful for the advent of Zoom, voice over IP dial-in options, and all of the other ways that technology has advanced to make remote attendance for any number of things easier, but especially for board meetings. I wholeheartedly recognize the value of meeting in person and the deepening of the relationships with fellow board members that can come from said in-person meetings. It is, however, definitely just infinitely less disruptive to an executive's life to be able to attend remotely, depending on their personal preferences and their lives outside of work. But back to those nuts and bolts of the scheduling. This is a great time of year to start the process if you haven't already. When I worked with my previous executive, we would start the process in September because Q1 comes faster than you think every year, especially if you have meetings that are monthly, once or twice a month, more than just once a quarter. January sneaks up on you real quick. So this being the first week of December, get on it if you haven't already. The very first thing you need to do is make or review your list of boards and then get your executive's input to rank them in order of who gets first pick of dates. There are bound to be boards that are on the same cadence, whether it's monthly, quarterly, twice a year, once a year. The likelihood that there will be boards asking for the same dates is high. Next, you need to collect and or update the contact info for all of your executives' boards. You might only touch base with these people once a year when you do your annual scheduling bonanza. So it's entirely possible that there has been turnover in any given organization. Communication might slip through the cracks. I have found that people are generally pretty good about communicating with their boards of directors when people leave for whatever reason, but we're all doing our best out here. You could find yourself reaching out to someone who is no longer at the organization. And sometimes once you send out that original email or you make the initial phone call, you just kind of think, oh, the ball's in their court. And then things can slip through the cracks on your end. So definitely be proactive and review your contact information. And if you don't already have it all grouped in one place, make that place. Moving right along, you want to touch base with the person or committee that is in charge of scheduling for any given board. Get 3 to 5 ideal dates from each of them for each meeting. Refer back to step 1, where you set an order of preference for choosing dates. Evaluate your calendars. Get approval from your executive if needed. There are definitely some people who have just carte blanche. They do the scheduling with no input from their executive. Their executive shows up at whatever it is that the EA has scheduled for them. Sometimes for things like board meetings, especially when there's travel involved, you might just need to get just double check, just make sure that that's all right, especially if it's going to involve some time away from home. Get back to your contacts on your boards as quickly as you can, because these people have several moving pieces when they're doing this scheduling. They're scheduling with facilities at the host venue. They're scheduling with all the different board members. They're scheduling with all the different internal stakeholders. Like, they're scheduling catering, they're scheduling travel. There's a lot on their plate too. So definitely try to be as prompt with getting that information back to them as you can. If it's a big enough board or it has enough meetings, get all of the stakeholders on a call with your calendars open and nail down those dates on the call. You might even need to start with a preliminary call. You might need to all come back with approval from your executives and then have a secondary call to finish this process. But I promise you, this will be so much faster and easier than waiting on everybody to get back via email. Getting folks on the phone is a big deal to me, and I will be recording a dedicated episode on getting people on the dang phone. So keep an ear out for that in the new year, or maybe before the end of the year. We'll see. Once dates are submitted and approved, plan out any travel. Like, your dates have been approved by your executive. They've been submitted to the person who's doing the scheduling for the board. Everything is good to go. Plan out any travel. A lot of boards have set locations. Maybe it's a company HQ. They might have preferred hotels, car services that they've used forever. Working with my former executive, I could book flights as far in advance as Delta would let me. It was a super regular route between Minneapolis and Atlanta. It was so regular, the flight numbers didn't even change. Like, the times had zero variance. It was the same flight day in, day out, the same crew. It was awesome. So just knowing that you have a pretty easy trip to book is great. Book it out as far in advance as is appropriate for purchasing reasons, as far in advance as is appropriate for reimbursement, whatever. But just get a general idea of when that travel needs to be booked, and set yourself a reminder if today is not the appropriate time. Speaking of purchasing power, boards generally reimburse you for any travel expenses. And by you, I mean your executive. So make sure that your executive submits receipts to you for anything that you didn't book for them. So when they park their car at the airport, make sure you get a copy of that receipt. When they get a coffee, when they land in Atlanta or wherever it is they're going, make sure that all of that is collected. Make sure that you're following the board's policies and procedures in terms of if you get a per diem or not. The worst thing anybody can do is say no. So I always like to throw all my receipts at the board and just have them, they get to make the decision and approve, so instead of us eating the cost of a couple meals or whatever, give the board the option. And most times, I would say 9 times out of 10, all of the expenses for getting my executive to and from a board meeting have been covered. But make sure that all of those receipts are making it to you. There will be, there is not presently, but there will be a dedicated episode on expense management. So listen for that, definitely in the new year. That's not a before the end of the year thing. I'm thinking January for that. Make sure you turn those receipts in to your board contact in a timely manner for reimbursement. A quick turnaround not only makes the job of the board host easier, but it also gets that money back in your company coffers, likely before the credit card bill even comes due. There's certainly going to be other details that come closer to the meeting time, like an agenda, any supporting documentation, financial information, job descriptions for roles that need to be hired. Be sure to touch base with your executive to confirm how they would like to receive those materials. If they're traveling, they might prefer a printed copy that they can review and mark up on the plane. They might like a temporary dedicated folder in their inbox so that everything is just right with them when they sign on to their email. You can transfer a file of everything over via Dropbox, AirDrop, use a USB, stick? What are they called? A flash drive. We're looking for a flash drive here. My goodness. When was the last time anybody used a flash drive? Yeah. So that's really what it is. Steph, I hope that helped. Get your list of boards, rank them in terms of who gets first dibs on dates with your executive, make and or update your contact list, touch base with the scheduling contact or committee if they haven't already reached out to initiate the process. If it's a big enough board or there are enough people involved, get on the phone and make it happen. Plan out the travel. If it's too far in advance, confirm when those details come from your board contact, and set a reminder for yourself to watch for those details and reach out to them if you don't receive them. Like, it's very easy in your mind to, oh, it's September, October, December. We already scheduled this board meeting. Everything's in the bag. No, sometimes you definitely want to be checking in and making sure that your travel has been planned if you weren't able to do it, because sometimes you are scheduling board meetings 3, 6, 9, 12 months in advance. I don't know how far in advance you can schedule a flight, but I'm pretty sure you can't do it a year in advance. So plan out that travel, set reminders for yourself as appropriate, and get receipts turned around to your board as quickly as possible. And that's it for this week. If you've got a question, I would love to hear from you. As always, please lay it on me. AskAnAssistant.com. I have been toying around with the idea of doing a monthly live, kind of an office hours, Ask Me Anything on LinkedIn. Let me know if you would like to attend, if that's something you're into, and if there is a good time of the week for that to happen. I am presently based in the Eastern time zone. I live like I'm in the Pacific time zone, and I definitely want to do something kind of late at night to catch folks on the other side of the world. I know Australia and other parts of the world are definitely missed sometimes with these live events, so definitely would love your input as to good days and times of the week or day, what time, morning, noon, night. I'm also a night owl, a Pacific Coast night owl, even though I live in New York. But yeah, I'd love your feedback. So lay it on me, askanassistant.com. And until next week, take care.